I'm James Lipton. And any notes that we have along the way, and you're the flying spaghetti monster. So we're doing an interview here. Okay? We begin, as always, at the beginning. Where were you born?
On top of spaghetti, all covered with cheese. That's what I've been told anyway. I don't actually recall my birth. That's just what my dad always said whenever I asked him.
Tell us about your father.
We had a difficult relationship from the beginning. As far back as I can remember, no matter what I did, I couldn't please him. And he couldn't accept the fact that I would never be like him.
Your father was the lasagna.
Yes. As you can imagine, we never saw noodles noodle. He wanted a son he could relate to. A son who understood the beauty of alternating layers. I think he always considered me his greatest disappointment.
And you never knew your mother?
No. She left me and my father for Manicotti before my meatballs had descended.
That must have been difficult for your father.
It was. I don't think he ever recovered from the fact that my mother chose large, rigid tubes over my father's wide, flat noodles.
One of the traditions of this series has to do with tattoos. Anyone who has watched this show knows I'm not allowed to have one. You have a tattoo, do you not?
Yes, I have two of them.
And what are they?
On my meatballs.
That must have been rather painful.
You have no idea.
And what should the tattoo say?
The one on the left says starch, and the one on the right says gluten.
The two major components of pasta.
Exactly. They're essential to a properly manufactured pasta and play a big role in maintaining the consistency and texture of the mixture of flour and water. The last thing you want is to end up with a rigid piece of wheat with a whitish color. I've known others who turned out that way. It's sad to see, but it happens.
What about gluten-free pasta?
Gluten-free pasta's for pussies.
You're also a big proponent of durum wheat flour.
Absolutely. Anything but durum wheat flour is an abomination. In Italy, use of common wheat flour in manufacturing pasta is considered fraudulent and against the law.
They take their pasta very seriously.
As they should.
An entire religion has been built up around you, the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, a parody faith created to challenge the teaching of intelligent design in public schools and to satirize creationism.
And my father told me I'd never amount to anything more than agiolio. Agiolio,
How does it feel to be deified?
It's flattering, but I'm still not used to people coming up to me and asking for my autograph. I never know how to react.
Your followers are called pastafarians.
Apparently.
Many of these pastafarians wear t-shirts and other paraphernalia with your image on it with the claim that they have been touched by your noodly appendage.
They wouldn't be the first.
Yes, you're apparently quite the ladies' man.
I've never seen the point in settling down. Seems kind of antithetical to my existence. The whole idea of monogamy just baffles me.
So you've never thought about raising a family?
No, that's just too much responsibility for me. I wouldn't be surprised if I had some little spaghettini running around out there.
One of the central beliefs of pastafarianism is that you created the universe after a night of heavy drinking.
Sounds like something I forget doing.
Another central belief is that you have the ability to become invisible.
Only when it comes time to pay the bill.
You were introduced to drugs and alcohol at an early age?
It was a culture I grew up in. Mushrooms were encouraged, and wine and pasta go together like pancakes and syrup.
Or like spaghetti and meatballs.
Precisely. So I lived that way for years, indulging my appetite for mind-altering substances. But after a while, you realize you can't keep living like that forever.
So you've given up your lifestyle?
Not entirely. I incorporate mushrooms into myself every now and then. But I'm not much of a drinker anymore. Too many calories. And my metabolism isn't what it used to be. There's nothing more unattractive than a middle-aged flying spaghetti monster with a muffin top. Though I still do enjoy an occasional glass of Chianti.
In pastafarian heaven, there is a beer volcano and a stripper factory. In hell, the beer is stale and the strippers have sexually transmitted diseases.
Sounds about right to me.
Would you add anything to either of these versions of heaven or hell?
Heaven would have whole wheels of fresh Parmesan or Reggiano cheese that you could grate by hand, and hell would have that pre-grated imitation crap that comes in plastic 16-ounce containers with flavor-locked caps.
Are you the creator of the universe?
Not that I know, but then I suppose that's the whole point, isn't it? That I created the universe in a drunken stupor? So I don't know. Maybe I did. But to be honest, it's not something I'd really want to take credit for. I like to think I would have done a better job than this.
What is it like to fly?
It's like dropping acid and going into a transcendent meditative state. Nothing can compare to it, except maybe tantric sex.
We had Mothra on the show not long ago. And when I asked her the same question, she described flying as communicating with the molecules of the wind and the air until you all speak the same language, then floating along on a shared psychic journey.
Sounds like her. She's absolutely brilliant, you know. An IQ of something around 220. She scored a perfect 1600 on her SATs. And she's got these crazy psychic powers. She always knows what you're thinking, so playing poker with her is pointless, unless it's strip poker. You don't mind losing.
You two dated for a while.
It wasn't anything serious. Neither of us wanted a relationship, so we did the friends with benefits thing until it got a little too weird.
One of you began to develop feelings for the other?
No, nothing like that. It was those twin, premature priestesses that accompanied her everywhere.
The chauvinism.
Yeah. I thought they were kind of cute, but then they started to get on my nerves. Always hanging around, chanting and singing at all hours, talking in unison. Plus, they had this strange telepathic connection to Mothra that creeped me out. But that eventually ended. But what eventually ended it was when I couldn't deal with the fact that whenever Mothra and I felt like playing hide the meatballs, those two wanted to watch.
You and Mothra are still friends?
Absolutely. She's the sweetest monster you'll ever meet. Kind, benevolent, always protecting Earth. Talk about divine. Plus, she has the whole metamorphosis thing going on from larva to pupa to magio, with her death coinciding with the hatching of her own larvae. It's very heavy on the resurrection theme. You want a monster to build a religion around it. She's it.
How did you meet Godzilla?
Both went to Oxford while studying abroad, and we ended up taking a class together on Japanese culture. He sat behind me in class and would always ask me questions about the previous day's assignment or look over my shoulder during tests.
He wasn't a diligent student.
Not at all. He spent most of his nights going out and getting drunk and destroying small towns. Eventually he got busted and ended up doing community service.
You didn't become friends right away then?
No. In addition to the fact that he kept cheating on me, he had horrible breath. Sometimes I could barely make it through class without dry heaving or passing out.
I can only imagine.
And he's a mouth breather, which made it even worse.
What event precipitated your eventual friendship?
I was hanging out in Soho one night, looking to score some shrooms and maybe find a nice Cockney horse and noodle, when Ghidorah and Megalon show up and start busting my chops. I'm not much of a fighter, so I'm just trying to get out there before things get out of control. They've got me cornered. Just as things are about to get ugly, Godzilla shows up and beats the crap out of them. He's drunk, of course, and it's all I can do to keep from gagging on his breath. But we end up going out for drinks, and by the end of the night, we're best friends.
He credits you for getting him through college.
That's because I let him cheat off me the rest of the year.
He also said that you're responsible for introducing him to his eventual wife.
Yeah, well, he wasn't particularly lucky with the ladies till I brought him some alcohols.
Your friendship wasn't always an easy one.
For a long time, Godzilla had a lot of hostility towards the human race, which started off as a simple misunderstanding, and they got blown way out of proportion. It didn't help that the whole King of Monsters thing got to his head. He should have hired a publicist, but he thought he could handle things on his own.
You tried to reach out to him.
Of course I did. We all did. But he was so full of anger he couldn't listen. Even after King Kong kicked his ass, he didn't come around. But after the Mothra debacle, he hit rock bottom and realized he needed some help. So he got into therapy, started taking lots of pram, and eventually ended up becoming the kinder and gentler Godzilla that everyone come to know and love.
And from there he went on to become a legend.
The biggest.
You never achieved the fame of Godzilla, Mothra, or even King Kong. Was there ever any jealousy?
For me, no, sure. Every now and then I wondered what it might have been like had things been different. But I'm pretty happy with the way my life turned out. After all, how many monsters could say they had an entire religion devoted to them?
Has your own recent brush with celebrity affected any of your relationships?
Not at all, at least not the ones that matter. But after this whole thing came out about me being the creator of the universe, a lot of monsters I haven't talked to in years suddenly started friending me on Facebook.
We end this portion of our program, as always, with a questionnaire that was invented by Proust and brought to perfection by my hero, Bernard Pivot. What is your favorite word?
Bolognese, just rolls off the tongue.
What is your least favorite word?
Fuseli, it's a long story.
What turns you on?
Capelli D'Angelo, Angelo pasta. If you've never been an angel of pasta, hair pasta, you don't know what you're missing.
What turns you off?
When someone tries to keep pasta noodles from sticking together by rinsing the cooked pasta in cold water, just add salt to the water before it boils, or drizzle some extra olive oil over that pasta once it's cooked, but never cold water. That's just a cry for help.
What sound or noise do you love?
Godzilla's roar. But the first time I heard it, I was blown away. It still gives me chills.
What sound or noise do you hate?
The high-pitched giggles of Mothra's little twin pixies, especially when they're stones.
What is your favorite curse word?
Cazzo, that's fucking Italian.
What profession, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
I'd like to be a game show host, or maybe a judge on American Idol.
What profession would you not like to participate in under any circumstance?
Politics. You ask me, they're all a bunch of self-serving cunts.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You were always my favorite.
And Kevin Donihe is our favorite. Thank you.
I have no idea if we're going to really get you subject now. I think I screwed a few words. But it's too late to pronounce that.
Thanks to everybody, and thanks to the authors who are present who did not read. You should really check out their stories. There's some phenomenal fucking shit. Edmund Callell, David Osborne, Anderson Prunty. If you missed Kevin Donihe's reading of his story, All Children Go to Hell, earlier in the weekend, then
Tough shit!
You did something really great. Thanks.